Alright, great. Again, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, and very good morning. Salam sejahtera and good day, everyone. Thank you for being able to make it to this session. Okay, first of all, to ask for God's and Allah blessing, shall we begin this session by reciting Al-Fatiha? Ya, Alhamdulillah, we are able to meet online. Inshallah, the other session, perhaps we could make it face to face. First of all, I would like to introduce Garrett's team that oversees or manages this workshop, series of workshops. Firstly, myself, I'm Zulkifli Mukhtar. At the moment, I'm the Director of Garrett. Okay, and together with me today is our research fellow, Dr. Naim Hayat. Okay, Dr. Naim, could you please just wave your hand or something like that? Okay, all right, Dr. Naim, everyone knows him. And we have Cik Rosidah, as the PIC for this exercise of workshop of 12 weeks Scopus. And the rest is Dr. Puan Adila, or known as Puan Dila. And we have our another clerical staff, Rosharumi, or Rose. So we are not that big, but we tend to plan something that is beneficial to all. Apart from the managerial team, myself and Dr. Naim, we also have Dr. Nur Nadia as our associate fellow for Gary, and she also the one of the participant in this workshop. Okay, can you pergi belakang dulu siapa Syidah ke? Pergi slide belakang dulu. Alright. So the title for this exercise is Scopus Journal Writing Workshop. So it should be workshops, a series of workshops. We're going to see the schedule of that workshop. So the main objective, boleh pergi ke depan? Next slide. Okay, right. Okay. So it's basically about how we going to structure the publication. The mechanism or the mechanics of this workshop will be explained by Dr. Naim in a minute. More or less, we want to what we call it refresh. I know most of the participants, you had your PhD maybe in recent years, or maybe like myself, more than 5 years. So perhaps we can refresh whatever we've done in our PhD and our current research agenda that can be put into a writing. And more importantly, is about having this published in what we call it good journals. Definitely, I can see some of you suggested top tier journal. Yeah, we appreciate that, and we strive to meet up all the journal requirements. Having said that, we also recognize there's a group of us that we could call is a novice researcher or novice writer. Definitely, this doesn't matter. We can be together in order to help you, and perhaps can upgrade your final output or the final draft of your write-up into a better ranked journal. Right? The third one is to apply knowledge about research design and all that. And more importantly, is about to understand the data analysis and data result. As we can see, most of us have been doing some sort of form of research activities, and definitely there are data available, either sorry for using this very limited scope of definition, quantitative or qualitative data that can be utilized and can be beneficial to craft a good argument and eventually a good research article. Okay, and when the rest is more likely about clerical stuff, how we can go about publication in a reputable journal, and definitely Dr. Naim will be explaining it soon. Okay, boleh ke depan lagi? Next. Okay, these are what we call it weeks. All more or less it will take about between 14 to 16 weeks. And as we draw this, you can see is a chain of date from 18, 25th, 2nd July is a weekly one. However, we're going to amend it accordingly or to suit the calendar of public holidays and also other commitments, other universities' commitments, for example, convocation, for example, a final exam and all that. We will manage it accordingly. More or less, these are the plan for your exercise. Week 0 is today. It's supposed to be 18. Week 0, that means following week, next week, we'll start as a week 0. Okay, it's more like an introduction and welcome note, but we do it a bit earlier. Today is 14th of June. Okay, paper planning and all that. Okay, maybe perhaps Dr. Naim, you would like to take over for this explanation, Doctor, please.
Okay, so thank you, Associate Prof. Zulkifli Mukhtar. So I am actually quite delighted to actually given this opportunity to actually utilize the brainchild or the idea that I have to help our colleagues in UMK for their publication endeavors or the journeys they are pursuing. So first of all, I thank you all the individual the groups who are interested to actually get advice or you can say get some kind of support what I and my team at Gary can provide. So this actually gives you right now we are discussing the weekly activities from the conception of the idea to the final write up and the submission. So there are actually sequence of activities that we need to plan when we are writing or you can say going for a publication. So hopefully you can say when we go together from the next week, so these things maybe actually we are try to interact, debate, and then actually make a learning out of it so that it can help us. So again, this program is only having one objective to make success for all the participants and they are able to publish. So we need to understand that we as a scholar or the academic community, we have a responsibility to describe and you can say whatever we learn from the social process or the academic process to make it public. So writing is a social process because this writing, what we did, it is actually read by the people. So it means all the writing we are making or we are trying to actually deliver to the public, it have certain expectation that it must meet. That you can say the sequence of the language, the meaning of the language, then the experiment, what we are doing, and then actually it gives some impact to the society. So the writing must be in a way that is understandable. So when we are actually try to plan a writing, so certainly we have to have the certain criteria to meet at the start and then till the end, so that a publication can be considered a worthwhile publication. Then a publication house or a journal can accept and publish. So next week we will be discussing about some of the benefits from the writing and the this program that can bring to everyone, and we try to facilitate everyone to be a successful, at least a Scopus level writer. So the following week, the week 1, so paper plan. As a business professional, or you can say the academic in the business management, I actually always believe planning is the foremost important activity, what to do and how to do, and that actually help in that paper writing as well. So when we are planning, we must think how and why my paper or the manuscript that I am planning to write is actually a worthwhile document, and it require a time, patience, effort, sometime money as well, and the collaboration with the different team so that we can actually plan the paper and actually complete the paper according to a certain standard. So many journal, many publication houses have their own set mark or standard for the writing, and then actually the writing style, referencing style. So many things are there. So we need to plan what to do and how to do, and that is the week one that we try to cover up. Most importantly, when we are writing for the Scopus or Web of Science or FT50, or you can say the top class journal, they always looking for in a paper that what is the contribution. So the contribution only come when we look for, when we are planning and writing a paper, a research gap. And how that research gap can be actually we are trying to fill in our paper so that it can contribute to the knowledge, and that is actually the research gap. And before actually completing a gap, we must understand and find out a research gap. So no good Scopus journal actually take a good paper or any paper unless it claim and contribute to a research contribution or filling the research gap methodologically, theoretically, via practice. So anyway, it must contributing. So in week two, we'll be discussing about what are the research gap that are easily available to us. And if we do some good reading, one or two good reading, so we can understand that this is the gap that can be filled. And then actually, if we develop or design our paper based on a research gap, with a proper citation, and then actually decide a research question, then possibility is there that it become a good manuscript, a paper. So to prove it, then we need to go for a literature. Literature review is the backbone, or you can say the blood in the paper, because without it, you can't claim anything. It may be a qualitative paper, quantitative paper, a mixed design method that we are opting. So literature review is the backbone of any good paper. So if we read good literature, so then we are able to write a good manuscript. So it is actually input output process. If we are having a good input, so possibly we have a good outcome. So that is my understanding. So a good reading, a good research literature, and from the respected journals. So again, you can say I always recommend that only read good material, like only the journal from the Web of Science or above it, so that when you read recent and good material, so certainly you come up with the research gap, and you actually find many paper, propositional paper, where actually they already give you the research question to do research. It means this can be a easy task if we read good and actually take the lead from that, then make our design our paper. So the literature review, we actually try to concentrate for 2 weeks to understand the research gap, the literature review, the reading of the literature, then actually taking some important notes from it, and then actually move forward. The next step, that is design, because when we actually understand the literature, so suddenly we come up with the research gap, and then we need to design our study, our research. So it mostly on a qualitative basis, or maybe if you are doing the qualitative, so you need to develop a research question, sometime in a quantitative way, so maybe a research framework, and then maybe if you are doing a qualitative, so certainly you hint the research question. So research design issues are handled in the week 5. So what are the possible inventory that we have as a tool of research design that can be possibly incorporated in a research paper? Then in the week 6, we will be talking about the data collection. So data collection, we need instrument for the data collection. Quantitative and in qualitative, so certainly the tools are different. So what kind of effort are the, we can say the development of the tool we can actually take into consideration and actually do some kind of the data collection instrument development. So again, it is more about the planning, and when I actually look into the proposed project, so it means many things already done by the our party. So in the week 7, the following week, the week 6. So week 6, sorry, week 7. So we need to understand the data collection, actual data collection, and then actually how to incorporate the reporting of the data collection in the paper. Because right now the good journals are very concerned about how the data is collected, because it actually describe the prestige as well as the value of the paper or the result that we are extracting from the data that we have. So the data collection, the method, and the precondition for the data collection are very important. So right now, many good journal, Web of Science journal, they are asking about the ethics approval for the data collection, then actually how the consent was taken from the respondent, and what kind of precaution that we are taking while the collection of the data. So week 7, we actually talk about these things and how to actually incorporate these information in a article or a manuscript. Then the data analysis. So certainly when we have the data, so we need to look for the ways to analyze the data. It may be qualitative, quantitative. So it all relate to the research question that we already proposed in the week 3 or 4. When we have the data analysis done, so actually it start the writing. So normally what again when I say I am doing, so I always have the paper plan or the paper model first, then the data collection, and then actually we need to talk about the discussion and the conclusion of the paper, because we already have a question at hand and we are trying to answer. That's why we develop the research. So we are actually talking about the discussion. So discussion, conclusion, are there are actually nearly 3 parts we discuss in the conclusion. That is the contribution, the limitation of the study, and then actually the future recommendation. So these 3 parts we actually normally include in the conclusion. And in the discussion section, we actually discuss the result according to the research question and sometimes the hypothesis. So accordingly, we have the discussion part and the conclusion part. But my understanding that in the conclusion part, the contribution of managerial literature or method, it's the most important, where make or break decision can be done by the journal to accept your paper or. So we will be discussing about how to actually discuss the result and how to actually design the conclusion. So there is a many variety, many journals have a different kind of conclusion. Some are actually discussing the implication, contribution in the discussion section. Some journal are asking us to actually discuss all the implication and the limitation in the conclusion section. So wherever they are, so just actually we need to discuss, because that actually make something that we are concluding. So whenever actually many people ask that paper writing, so in a standard paper, nearly 50 to 60% is the literature. It means we all rely on the already available information. Discussion and conclusion is something that we are making, sometime introduction as well. So it means these are the 3 parts that is actually making or breaking a paper. So introduction, discussion, and conclusion is actually our contribution to the literature. That's why it is actually very. Then the writing of the paper, so citation process, handling the accuracy of academic writing. So if you go for a good journal, so they actually read state by state. And sometimes we provide the wrong referencing or the citation, or maybe claiming that is not written in the document or in the literature. So we need to be careful, because normal mid-range quality journal may accept it, but again, when we are actually submitting our paper to a good quality journal, so the people who are reviewing the paper, they are actually expert in their areas for 10 plus years, and they actually know the literature by heart. And many times they can reflect easily. Right now, they can actually go back and evaluate the comments or the details given in the paper. So it must be done in a right proper way. The referencing, citation, and the accuracy of the academic information we are providing. So then the next thing is the review process, peer review, or maybe one review that the researcher. So I always actually respect the idea that if you write something, so one colleague who doesn't take part into the writing process must read the paper, and that third person reading actually can improve the paper a lot. I work with some colleague in the European countries, so they have the idea. So one gentleman or two gentlemen, which is not in the writing team, they review the paper normally free of the cost, and they actually give a very good feedback. And that feedback actually help to improve the paper while it is at the researcher hand. And then actually we move further, improve the paper, and then the first draft or maybe the second draft of the paper is ready. Then we can go for the submission. So for our journey, the week 12, that is actually we may have our first copy of the paper. So it's a celebration time for all the colleagues who actually go along this journey. And the paper is actually reviewed by myself and my team and Dr. Zulkifli. So maybe we are also actually able to contribute or able to actually comment something that may help to improve the paper. So we are actually planning that by week 12, 13, 14, and 15, so 2 to 3 weeks. So maybe a given a time to incorporate all the adjustment or the amendment that what we are suggesting, and maybe you are able to submit the first draft of your paper for the consideration to any respective journal. So this is the division of the work that we actually plan for this activity so that it can continue unless we complete up till the first copy of the paper. Okay, so expectation is that we are actually contributing in your publication journey. So there are actually 12 groups, the individuals who actually submit their interest in publication, sport, or health, or facilitation that we can provide. So I just actually read what they are pursuing, what's the objective, and the right know if they do something more reading and more understanding, so that help to go for the a good publication. Like our first group, so they targeting the innovation management, and the prospect title of the paper is Digital Divide: Management Issues Among Tourism Industry Stakeholder in Malaysia. So sometime when we are actually dealing with the paper as a reviewer, as an editor, so the paper title is very important. So certainly these are prospective, so certainly it may be amended later on, but it must actually highlight the issue, the context, as well as the topic area or the variable that we may be interested in. So digital divide: management issue among tourism industry stakeholder in Malaysia. So it is the first group that what they are pursuing in a manuscript. The second group, so they actually try to publish in Cogent open access journal. So Cogent have 3, 4 journals, but one management journal as well. So the title, expected title, management talent management strategies for developing skill and potential of young employees. So certainly very broad area, so must be actually scope it up. So certainly it helps in the paper design and the manuscript design. The third group, targeting Asian Journal of Sustainability and Social Responsibility. So the topic title is From Community to Museum: Engaging Stakeholder in Safeguarding Intangible Cultural Heritage. So it may be a behavior of conservation for the culture that they are interested in. Next group, so they are targeting a journal, Tenient, I think so. That's maybe the name of the journal. The title: Exploring the Role-Playing Game Comic Phenomena, a content analysis of intersection between RPG culture and comic art. Usually, it's kind of explorative study. Phenomenological maybe the method they are adopting. So it's very interesting topic, that role-playing game and the comic phenomena. So they are interested in content analysis. Next group, interested in a sustainability journal to publish food waste management. Certainly, it doesn't talk about much about the actual topic. It's a very broad topic, food waste management. So certainly, they need to come up with the more a kind of understandable topic, and what would be the scope, what would be the variable, what would be kind of study they are. The next group, Journal of Technical Education and Training. So it's more about the education and training, and the title 21st Century Ideal Learning Environment, Advanced Technology Classroom or Architecture Design Students. So again, very fuzzy, not much clear. So they must come up with more uh, that's literature understanding than designing a research on a gap. It facilitates. The next group we have, and they are actually interested to go for our intellectual discourse journal, and the topic they are like to work on the concept of happiness in traditional society, the exemplification of Mingo Minangwa Kapu society. So it may be a phenomenological study. So there is a kind of society, a community. So they are actually highlighting the happiness in a traditional society. So maybe a kind of phenomenological or discourse analysis that maybe they are interested in. The next group, Botanica Journal of Social Science and Humanities, uh, the topic social support for elderly to perform Hajj travel and impact on well-being. So maybe at a context, it may be in Malaysia, or maybe the subcontinent, or maybe you can say the Asian context. The social support for elderly to perform Hajj is a very good topic and maybe much relevant. So if written properly, I think so that's maybe a good contribution. The next group, International Journal of Production Economics, and they are like to work on revolutionizing paddy farming in Linton, harnessing innovative technology for sustainable agriculture. So, what kind of innovative technology? So, certainly, if you add in the title, more understand. But certainly, right now we are at the start. The next group, Journal of Hospitality and Tourism, is the tourism management they target, empowering the Orang Asli participation indigenous tourism, a case of Timar ethnic group in the US, Pula North. So it means a kind of a case study, and they are actually interested in that how the original people from a certain area they help indigenous tourism. The next group, FFIE Business Review, I think it's a SAGE journal. Uh, the title, Leading Change Analysis of Two Business Organizations. So certainly, what is the topic, what is the area, so we don't know leading change in what type. So maybe we need to focus on what thing that they are likely to cover up. The group 12, they are looking for a led publication. So no journal name, so certainly maybe any journal published by the publication house. So our likely topic, a study of factor influencing adoption of cashless payment among university students. So these are some of the topics that these group are actually submitted. So certainly we can work on all these, but again, we need to go back and think on any kind of the gap from the literature that actually would really claim that we are fulfilling. So that is the first step and foremost step that help to actually create a paper that can easily go in Scopus or above it. It all started that we have a gap at hand and we are promising to actually fulfill this gap theoretically by practice or maybe by methodology so that we have a more understanding for a business problem or the business issue at a societal level, at an organizational level, that we are willing to fill it up or to contribute to the literature. So these 12 group, so when we actually like to meet next time, so I hopefully they have a more understanding about the literature at hand. So my practice normally when we are designing the papers, we normally come up with the recent 5 to 10 paper so that we have understanding what is the research gap and then actually we design a gap and then the study because the gap is the core or maybe you can say the seed from where thought process started for a paper writing. So this is all from my side. If you have any question from our audience, so I think so they have a time to ask in next. 10 to 15 minutes so that after. Yeah. So hand over to Associate Prof. Dr. Zulkifli.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Naim. So I guess it's more about getting clarification and information from all of us about this exercise. And I would like to apologize in advance is there is no clear direction of not a clear direction, but rather than fixed direction about this one, because we're going to amend it or we're going to change it along the way. So now I would like to invite anyone of the participants would like to have any questions before we proceed further. Not that, I mean, we're going to end it by 10:45. Now, yeah, any question from the participants? Ada soalan ke? Okay, if no question, our initial workshops will be conducted online. Okay, we will send calendar invitation. I will discuss with Dr. Naim because some of you need what we call it a close guidance. Okay. Then I will discuss with Dr. Naim to set a special session for your group. However, this special session no need be that long, maybe maximum about half an hour, because we need to caution about everyone's time commitment, especially Dr. Naim, so that he could attend to many groups as possible. Okay. In between that, we also going to conduct a face-to-face session. Okay, face-to-face session. However, due to the time constraint and commitment of others, it might not be what we call it. Everyone could attend it. Yeah, we're going to invite all, but due to the work commitment and also some of schedule commitment, everyone is not going to be there. It doesn't matter, but we just conduct it. Maybe week 5 or week 9, something like that. Okay, so please be there so that I think the face-to-face session is more effective, provided you have prepared something beforehand so that you can ask and guidance and also clarification from Dr. Naim, our what we call it, our prime coach for this workshop. Okay. From myself, I think maybe there is a question about how we can go about the publication fees. Okay, so at the moment we are thinking to approach RMIC to ask for a special scheme through these workshops, but it's not 100% promise. But what I can put forward is my commitment to apply for this from RMIC. Okay, RMIC. Maybe it's not necessarily full APC, article processing charges, but maybe partial or even like incentive. As you know that at the moment, the RMIC has not yet able to provide us due to the financial constraint of the universities. They are unable to provide us the incentive, publication incentive that was offered, I think 2 years, 3 years ago, something like that. Okay, but I think if we could prove this is the route for a more likely a development program for publication exercise, then I think we could convince Prof. Arham, our TNC PNI. Okay. Anyone? Maybe Dr. Ikhwan, please.
Okay, sorry, I got a question,
Okay.
Dr. Nizul. All right. So here is the list of the journal, right? Okay, if let's say we would like to change or the current journal rejected and we would like to choose another journal, is it possible or we must stick to this journal only?
Okay. Maybe
Okay,
Dr. Naim would like to respond first, Doctor?
okay. So thank you actually for a question. It's very pertinent question. So first of all, when we are designing a paper, that's actually my practice, or you can say my scheme of work. So we always actually try to work with a standard paper first, so it can answer all the questions. Then actually we adjust or amend or edit, or you can say the format change according to the journal where we are submitting the paper. So certainly the journal can be changed. It's actually frequently in our journey, or you can say journey of publication. So we are targeting one journal, so they may reject the paper. So we need to change on. So that is the life cycle of a paper. So certainly you can change. But first of all, we need to have all the minimum attribute set so that it can go for a scope. Then the format change, or you can say the editing, or you can say the referencing, that change according to the journal. So journal can be changed at any time, but at least what we are actually minimum, that is actually the minimum benchmark, so that the paper can go to any Scopus journal. So formatting, certainly it comes later on.
Okay. So yeah, there is a chance, Dr. Ikwan. So my suggestion on top of Dr. Naim's input just now, it could be we could have like a one up to 3 journals that possible for us to not many as 10, but only 3 journals that we are targeting, so that we know that our paper will fit nicely into the scope and the interest of that particular journals as well. That's one. Or if need be, the one that I'm working with my PhD student, we always look for call for paper, but call for paper normally the time frame is quite short,
Yeah,
because there's a
6 months, 1 year.
yeah, it's not it's possible, but I think this is another option that we can look at. If that deadline for call for paper, it might be 6 months ahead, then we can work something on it. Okay, all right, thank you, Dr. Ikwan. Thank you, Dr. Naim.
Okay.
Yeah,
you.
I can see here Hanim. Hanim, is it?
Abdullah.
Hanim. Puan Hanim ke? Yang mana? Hanim FHPK ke mana? Sebab banyak ramai juga Hanim ni. Puan Hanim from tak ada, okay?
FHPK datang.
FHPK, Fadilah Hanim.
Ya.
Okay, Puan Fadilah Hanim, do you have any question? Tak ada. Alright. Fadilah Hanim, it's good commitment lah. Okay. Now, we are going to consistently remind you about this workshop. Please not adhere, but rather than give your commitment to the time frame, because we want to produce something this year, at least submitted article before before September or October, at least they can be published by next year, inshallah. Okay. Round table, maybe few last words from Dr. Naim, if you.
Okay. So first of all, it is a journey. So every journey starts with a small step, and the big step certainly comes later on. And it look very fuzzy. And again, you can say with my experience, 70 plus publication in last 5 years. So what I understand, every paper on the day one looks very fuzzy. And when you move on, so then actually things become more easy. So I want to close this discussion with one of the you can say the metaphor that given to me in UK when I'm doing my master degree. And the first class for the research method, so one of our prof, I'm forgetting her name actually, Sandra Watson was her name, and she told that research is like that you find yourself nowhere. You don't know who is around you. When you start reading, so you understand there is a boundary far ahead of you. If you read more, then you start looking at boundary coming near to you. When you read more, then actually you look, there is a boundary, and there is actually a four boundaries across in front of you. If you read, that is your method and methodology, so then you come across that there is a door in the room. And then if you read more and actually apply the understanding what you have, so you have a key of the door, and when you apply and document and implement, so then you are able to open the door. So that is the research journey. So research journey always start with nowhere. Your reading, your literature understanding give you a way that there is a boundary. And then if you read good enough and more understanding and apply your knowledge, so then actually you see a door. And with that understanding, if you apply in a method kind of thing, so then you able to open it. So still when you complete the journey, so there is another area come that there is something more to explore. That is a researcher life, a journey. So when you do one research, actually you incline to do more research, because this is a kind of self discovery, self challenge that we are actually in pursuit of as a researcher. A never ending process, but certainly it requires a kind of layer and layer that we engage in the research, or explaining the thing that what Allah say, look into the things and try to understand. That is our job, what we are trying to do, and make it public to the community. That is the publication.
All right, thank you, Dr. Naim. Yeah, just last bit of observation from you. Maybe Gary boleh drop ni yang ni sekejap, saya nak share screen sekejap. Okay. Saya kadang-kadang ialah kita taklah berapa rajin, but I think I would like to advise someone the one that in this session, if you go to YouTube, I find this guy is quite practical. I mean, while driving, you can hear the suggestion, and that is by Professor Simon Peter Jones from University of Cambridge, if I am not mistaken. He's a computer scientist, but he advised, he put forward a good suggestion for paper. For example, the approach of writing a paper is not necessarily because at the moment the flow is something like, if we have the data, then we write the paper. But for him, before the data emerge or before completing the data collection, you can start writing. So this is another what we call it perspective of journal writing. Might be we can explore that, inshallah, in the near future. All right, so I think that's all from us in Gary. Kindly contact us if you have any question. Definitely, Shida will be contacting you first. Kacau-kacau sikit dulu. Then if she has any question, I will sit down with Dr. Naim and Shida to get direction for the answer. Then we'll reply to you. Okay. Thank you very much all for your time. Now is 10 minutes to 11, so we had been about 50 of a good 50 minutes for this session. So Alhamdulillah. So shall we adjourn our session by reciting Surah Wal-As dan Tasbih Kafarah?
Terima kasih Dr. Rizal.
Thank you very much. See you.
Thank
Sekejap
you.
lagi Dr. Ikwan. Nanti saya pergi I pula. Okay, thank you Dr. Alexander. Thank you Puan Hanim. Alright, see you. Assalamualaikum then.
Waalaikumsalam. Goodbye.